Hello, and welcome to this episode of Security Square, our cybersecurity-focused series featuring analyst insights, expert guests, and the latest news and happenings across the security sector. I'm your host, Shelly Kramer, principal analyst here at Kramer&Co Research. Today, I am joined by Dr. Chris Pierson, who's the founder and CEO of a company called BlackCloak. And we're going to have a conversation today about executive digital protection, concierge security, and privacy protection for corporate executives and high net worth individuals, and why that is quickly becoming a thing. Chris, welcome. I'm so glad to have you.
Thank you so much, Shelly. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. Well, I will confess that Chris and I crossed paths, and I think I got just a little bit of a snippet of what it was he and the team at BlackCloak were doing, and so I'm convinced him to join me on this show because I think that what you're doing is really interesting. So, before we dive in though to all things executive digital protection, Chris, I want to talk about you for a little bit. If memory serves, I believe you had a bit of an untraditional path to the cybersecurity space, maybe law firm practice, working with the federal government a little bit. I know that you were the first chief privacy officer for the Royal Bank of Scotland, which is only the third largest bank in the world. Talk with me a little bit, if you would, about that career backstory and the journey that you've been on.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, all things tech kind of converged in the mid 90s. Started out as a programmer, an engineer, working on some really interesting things. And then in 2002, started a cybersecurity practice at a large national law firm. Back then, large was about 250 people,
Right.
250 attorneys. And so we got to do a lot of really amazing things across the U.S. in terms of responding to data breaches, responding to hacking, responding to different attempts at theft of intellectual property, both for private sector clients, public clients, and a lot of defense industrial based clients back in that time as well. And it was one of those interesting pathways of, really amazing stuff, hair on fire, able to get out there and put out the fire, right? Bring the fire extinguisher, put out the breach, save the day with the general counsel for the corporation, outside forensic firms, internal investigators, and IT and cybersecurity folks. And it was really, really cool. But, it always left me with something, kind of like nagging as to I'm starting, like back at that point in time, it was SQL Server injection or buffer overflow was the main point of attack. It always left me wanting a little bit more in terms of like, how can we actually prevent this if I'm seeing the same type of fire, just a little bit of different size, different type of fire extinguisher. But if I'm seeing the same different fire occur at company after company after company, I'd much rather be on the front end of let's actually solve it, not solve it through policies and procedures, but actually solve it by standing guard in the front lines. And so the Royal Bank of Scotland's U.S. operations at the point in time came calling, and it was hey, can you go ahead and serve as chief privacy officer? Can you help out on fraud? Can you help out on cyber? Can you help out on other things like anti-money laundering? And we were able to really wrap those different situations that were happening from a proactive protection perspective, knowing what the reactive risks were, and figure out what the different controls are that we would put in place. And it was it was a marvelous time and opportunity to kind of like go through multiple pieces of that on multiple continents and really figure out, well, hey, how can you stop the cyber criminal? How can you stop the fraudster? How can you stop somebody placing or layering funds from a anti-money laundering perspective? And it was really interesting to kind of build that and build those topologies in, and then to build in controls that actually would go solve it. So I really loved my time there. At the same time, I started serving in more of a formal role as a special government employee for the Department of Homeland Security, and doing some working on some really, really cool classified areas of our national security, and saw the same things. I mean, definitely as it related to critical infrastructure, but also as it related to just some really, really cool, interesting key people. And this is where the key person stuff started coming in. I knew from my time at the law firm that, hey, CEOs and other board members were under attack in their personal lives. It was kind of onesie twosie. I knew from my classified world side of things throughout the early 2000s that I was seeing some more of this occur.
Yeah.
In my role later on, I kept on seeing it increase. At the bank, I saw it increase. And then when I was a chief information security officer for two different fintechs, I mean, my gosh, being in the middle of the money movement. I mean, it's like, why do they rob a bank? Well, that's where the money is. And the same thing in terms of fintech. It's really, really interesting space. We saw a lot on the defense industrial base side for our secrets, intellectual property, different things there. I saw so much on the finance side in terms of being at financial institutions for over a decade, and it just kept on creeping up. But what was interesting is that kept on seeing instances, both classified, both private, and ones that were public. I mean, 2012, LinkedIn. We know that the breach there emanated out of a key engineer. There's a great podcast on this, but key engineer being taken at home, having a direct connection between their server at home and a server at the company, and it was done for convenience sake. But really opened up the front door to cybercriminals to go ahead and target the company and take what they took, which is still one of the most amazing treasure troves of passwords that were out there that were not properly hashed, so to speak.
Absolutely. Well, and I think that, as I was kind of looking back, about what I could see of your career trajectory, it kind of looked like, this perfect combination of expertise in the legal field and then in financial services and, then doing the work with the government. So you've been exposed at the highest level to extremely classified information and, information that could easily wreak havoc in people's lives, right? And so really and was there an epiphany moment when you shifted from thinking about corporate security to, oh my gosh, instance after instance of senior level executives or high net worth individuals or whatever, and there's an opportunity, or there's a gap in the market that I think I could fill?
Yeah, it's it's literally when I was on the classified side, we started seeing more of these incursions on people's personal lives.
Yeah.
We of course saw LinkedIn. We saw 2016 election in terms of quite honestly what happens a lot in terms of personal email servers out there for government employees and high ranking government employees.
Yeah.
And then my own personal pain points of I keep on getting the incoming from the board, from the executives, from their spouses, significant others, the other adults in the homes.
Yeah.
And it became an interesting dynamic of the gut reaction is, no, I can't solve that. My team can't solve that. We can't work within your personal email, your personal computers, your personal whatever, to really understanding, this is the same risk that I saw 10 years ago. It hasn't been solved. There are no solutions for me to solve it as a CISO. Right. And I have two options. Either one, ignore it, try to transfer it, do something else, or really go out and try to solve it.
Figure it out.
So I did the latter, right? I did the latter. I actually literally went out to 73 homes of CEOs, CFOs, high net worth, ultra net worth individuals, sports star, rock star politicians, and, got in there with them for an entire day, sometimes 2 days, stayed overnight, and really figured out how did they lead their digital lives. And they're complicated. Multiple homes, multiple yachts, multiple planes, homes all over the world, lots of pieces of technology, and quite honestly, a lot of other people entering their homes.
Yeah.
Some of these homes have family offices that they're actually operating out of their homes, and more so now post-COVID. Yeah. But there's a lot there, right? There was a lot there to kind of dig into. And it was really three questions. Number one, is this a pain point that they perceive they have? And the answer was, hands down, yes. Two, is it possible to actually solve it more poignantly for me to solve it using net new technology, net new controls, and kind of re-envisioning things? Yeah. And the answer is yes. And then three, can we go ahead and build a great, successful company and team around this? And the answer was yes as well. Mm-hmm. And it was that shift in thinking of, hey, you can only build a castle wall so high before it topples over. So corporate controls at some point in time are going to reach their really penultimate in terms of you can't go any higher. The Pareto efficiency curve there doesn't get any better by building a higher castle wall, and it probably actually makes it more complicated. And so the question was, is what is outside the castle wall a better vector of attack? The king and queen leave the castle, they go to their summer cottage, they go for long walks down by the river, they go into the village. Is an attack better placed there in their personal lives with them, their spouses, significant others, their kids, their family members, than actually at the company, causing a breach back to the company, or a reputational loss, or financial loss, or just something where the CISO, no matter what, has to go solve it? And the answer was yes, yes, yes. It was an unconditional that this is the next battleground. We believe the home is the next battleground, period. The
Yeah.
home is where it's at for cybersecurity, for the corporate market, for executives, for key personnel.
Well, I think it's safe to say, really, Chris, that the home being the new battleground is not really new. I mean, and I think that, to my way of thinking, when we collectively navigated a global pandemic, we took, hundreds of thousands of office workers and shifted them to work at home, which meant, internet connections, routers, printers, all different kinds of devices, which may or may not be properly installed, properly secured, all that sort of thing. High net wealth individuals and everybody else. This is definitely a serious risk vector.
It is. It's one of those that it isn't out of sight, out of mind anymore after COVID, right? Really
Yeah.
shine the light on the fact that, look, this population is going to use personal emails. They're going to use personal devices. They're going to put their corporate PCs and laptops or whatever on home networks.
Yeah.
They're going to be next to their kids, all the rest of these other machines and other strangers that are coming into the home. The fact of the matter is that a weak spot there could cause a weak spot back into the company. It's much akin to like healthcare,
Yeah.
right? Whether someone has high cholesterol or high blood pressure is going to actually impact their ability to do good work on the inside of the company, right? It just is. And so the company does play a role in solving that, especially for executives and high profile individuals. It may be that, the normal healthcare is good enough for everyone else, but that team needs an executive physical. They need executive concierge medicine. They need global air medical rescue. There's just certain things that are there, not because of a benefit, but are because of the position and the stressors put on them and the risks.
Yeah.
And that's what we saw here. That's really what we saw.
Well, I definitely see. I understand where you see that opportunity. And to me, this is really kind of one of those no-brainer things, right? I mean, humans are traditionally the weakest link in our cyber defenses, intentional or otherwise, right? Just, the way that we behave, we carry around these mobile devices everywhere and our laptops. And, we don't just leave things in the office. And then when you add in senior executives, global travel, all that sort of thing, families, all of those touch points, it makes sense. And it's again, a no-brainer to see why threat actors would see this group of people as attractive targets.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and what's cool is they're very, very attractive targets. It's very easy to get after them. But what's even cooler is like the take is still around the same as what it would be on the inside of the company. So if you're doing an extortion scheme or ransomware scheme for a company and hey, it's $20 million and it gets negotiated down to 5. Well, if you target a corporate executive for a Fortune 100 company and you actually are able to penetrate that, they have that much money in their account. They have that much money with their family office. They have that much money with their financial advisor. Hey, I need to send $5 million to wherever for the new pen. I mean, these are things that they actually do. And so if the take is the same or similar,
why not?
And the controls are nothing. I mean, you go to the easy spot.
Well, and you think about, I mean, so many, we're talking about people who have teenagers or young children who have devices, who just the business of keeping, I'm sort of the IT lead in my family, right? And so I'm the person that's constantly worrying about, operating system updates and password changes and putting MFA in place and explaining why I don't want to hear you complaining about this, and that sort of thing. But, I'm not operating at the level that many of these individuals are operating at. And even then staying on top of all of this stuff and not only having the knowledge and expertise that you have, but that you need, but having the time, that's a significant challenge as well. So I get it. I get it. So,
I mean, and what's cool there is there's like a big building block of like, what do you need? What do you have? How can you get the better control and rest? But then once even you do that, there's like no end to that, continue evolving. But more so the thing is like, well, and then what? Who's actually protecting? Who's actually reacting? Who's actually responding? I mean, 3 years ago, we weren't talking about deep fakes, even 2 years ago, talking about deep fakes that are so incredibly convincing, where you literally only need a 3-second audio and a one still shot, and you don't need like a George Lucas Industrial Light and Magic team of 300 people with supercomputers behind you to right? Like that all is just a browser and an upload and you're done.
Yeah.
The jump aheads that we've seen here in terms of the battle space is just, I
It's
mean,
crazy.
it is
Well,
amazing.
and things like, I mean, we developed a safe word for our family in over the course of the last year, largely because not only of the deep fake, but the audio fake video or the audio calls that are happening. And,
Yep.
people are trying to extort money and cause havoc and everything else. Who would have thought we would have needed something like that? But the reality of it is this space is evolving very quickly. The threats are evolving very quickly. And really, we laugh about this all the time on this show, as focused as many of us are in terms of integrating generative AI into our solution sets and that sort of thing. Threat actors are equally as excited about the promise of Gen AI to help them do what they do even more accurately and more quickly. So
Yeah.
it's a game of whack-a-mole. I say that often. That feels like it's a never-ending game. So.
Yeah, I think the home ad's a really, really interesting dynamic there, which is why it's an ever-changing space, right?
Yeah.
Path of least resistance, but it's an ever-changing space, and that's where the technology has to be purpose-built for that population.
Yeah.
It's like there's no implement and then move on, and 5 years later, it is what it is. It's literally building that technology is each and every month, each and every quarter, releasing new things that go ahead and built into the product, get built into the technology, get built into the concierge, because the tactics are all changing and shifting, and they're all different. They're all different than, I shouldn't say they're all there's a vast variety of them in terms of what's in the B2B space inside the corporation versus what's in the home. But some of the people, the players, all the rest are the same, and they're sharing what works back and forth. And it's really interesting.
Yeah, there's a community of threat actors. They like to share. They like to share what works. They like to provide as a service offerings for some of these campaigns that they do. Well, I want to step back just a little bit, Chris, and talk about BlackCloak. So, to be clear, this is not a new company that you just stood up. I believe you incorporated BlackCloak in about 2018. Your first hires were in 2019, and you just closed a $17 billion round of B funding, right?
Yeah, we got the B round funding done to really, really go ahead and continue to build the product and engineering teams, continue to build our concierge teams, and continue to increase the go-to-market there. Super proud of the team. It really does take a great team, and it takes a great investor crew. But I mean, look, we created this category called digital executive protection. We're the pioneers of it. We started it. And so we're paving that path forward. And in order to do so, we have to always be innovating. We have to always be providing great value to our clients, both B2B side as well as more, your high profile folks, and really be out there ahead of things in terms of like our intelligence capabilities. And intelligence team has to be second to none and grabbing into all sorts of data. Our ability to actually do red teaming activities on people in their homes and all the rest has to be there. The ability to go ahead and protect all the ever-changing landscape of devices, cell phone, tablet, computer. This isn't a risk assessment, program. This is full-blown privacy and cybersecurity jointly together, but it's proactive protection and it's reactive when bad things happen, when somebody receives that phone call and they do something, when somebody decides to click on the link. These are all places where we have to have that safe environment, have a controlled environment, and be able to go ahead and stop that human behavior that could lead to a breach, both through education as well as controls and technological controls there. And tackle the home and really the homes. People that we protect, they have 3 to 5 homes on average. Right? These are people that lead really, really sophisticated lives, complicated lives. And in many cases, the digital sphere is their, it's kind of how they make money, kind of how they make money and how their name and reputation are out there. So it's really, really great to see that we're growing. We continue to grow year over year, doubling the company and all the rest. This year, we'll actually triple the size of the company. Awesome. And so really excited.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you touched on some of the functionality that you've built with BlackCloak. So I just want to kind of quickly go through that. So mobile and desktop experiences, whatever your devices are, that's part of the protection that you provide. Concierge level support, which it would, to me, it's expected. And I know there's also an education portal where I would probably spend about as much time in the education portal as I would spend reading the instruction manual in the glove box of my car.
That's why we do it live. That's why we do it. Yeah, that's why we do it live, real time.
Yeah,
So we
no.
will, yeah,
I think that's good. I couldn't pass up the opportunity to make fun of myself, Chris.
yeah.
But two of the things that I really like is that you've got real-time updates to show where your security is at any moment, and at a glance visualizations that show your risk status. And I will tell you that's what I'm looking for as at an executive level solution. I want to be able to just boom, okay, I have to worry, I don't have to worry, I'm good. Now I can walk away and live my life. But I thought those two bits of features and functionality I thought were particularly attractive to me.
Yeah, well, let's talk about it. I mean, in terms of, look, at the end of the day, you need to know where you were, and where you were is fine. Like, we'll take you from wherever you're at. If you're at 1% cyber secure, that's great. We're going to bring you on up that continuum. But we want you to know where you were, where you currently are, what things are in progress, what we're working on, what you're working on, how we're doing that together in training course, and where we want to get you in a way that is frictionless, in a way that preserves your privacy and all your personal information, in a way where we're able to go ahead and proactively prevent, react, respond, and stitch it all together. But it's a journey. And
Yeah.
that's one of the key things here, is that this is a relationship. This is like, so it's literally like the doctor's office in terms of things. Like, you don't want to, you can't just say, hey, go run 50 miles so you lose 5 pounds. And it's just not going to work. You need to go ahead and put together a plan, put together a risk assessment, chart the course there, but have the technology that is purposely built for that reason. And then you have to have that feedback loop back into the individual, into their family. And of course, because we service Fortune 100 clients, down to Fortune 10 clients, we have to provide that same value back into the champion, right? The champion there might be the CISO, might be the CSO, might be whoever, right?
Yeah.
They have to understand where they were from a risk posture and where they are now, knowing that there's never an end. There's never 100% we're all done, but we want to make sure that we're able to do that. And what's cool is that time takes care of new risks that need to be removed and mitigated. Deep fakes, once again, 2 years ago, not so much an issue, now a major issue. So we'll have to bring BlackCloak to bear on that. Social media monitoring. I mean, look, at the end of the day, maybe 2015, it was not as much an issue. After 2015, it was, and it gets to be more of an issue now. So I think really important to have that be a product-led company and have that tech-enabled service down pat.
Well, and I think too that, some of the things I know when I look at sort of the functionality and the protection that's provided, for instance, in the digital privacy protection, things like scans of the dark web, monthly data broker removal. So all of our information is out there all over the web on a regular basis. And there are solutions out there. You know what I'm talking about. You see those targeted ads when you're on Instagram or Facebook or wherever it is you hang out. But those are sometimes some of the things it's like, oh, that'd be a good idea, but I don't really have time to do that sort of thing. So this is the kind of thing, though, having your data removed from data brokered lists, identity theft protection, where somebody proactively is searching to make sure that you don't have anything to worry about, monitoring your credit. Most of us don't pay a lot of attention to what's happening with credit bureaus, but just to me, I look at some of the services and functionality that BlackCloak provides, and I think about, like, these are all things that we all know are important, but sometimes there are things that we just don't get to. So then when you extrapolate that out to high net worth individuals and families and senior executives, and the fact that they have a juicy target on their backs, I think that it's like, absolutely, this is good stuff. It makes a lot of sense.
It is. I mean, look, from multiple different perspectives. Let's take the CISO perspective for one thing. The CISO wants their data broker profile and the stuff that's out there on people as minimal as possible.
Right.
But what they also want is the ability to talk to someone about a specific site, a specific incident, a specific whatever, and get that advice and guidance. We're blessed that we have former chief privacy officers here. We have people who are privacy certified here. We have a number of attorneys that are on staff. So we're able to actually walk them through what is possible, isn't possible. And right now in election year, we're always getting in the, hey, what can I remove in terms of my past donations? And under federal election laws, the answer is not too much.
Yeah.
But it's we want to make sure that we're there as a partner to the champion for the questions they have incoming from the board and from the C-suite, and that we're able to go ahead and still provide value to them every step of the way. But these are things that you have to do them at time one. You got to do them live real time or each and every month. They're just good hygiene items. And scary stuff happens in the interim, right? Scary stuff can happen in the interim. We just had a recent breach that we responded to where the entire executive team, their adults as part of that, as well as some of the kids, all received threatening emails, threatening phone calls, really, really nasty pictures being sent to them as a means by which the cybercriminals were trying to speed up the negotiation process, right? Cause undue angst and strife and anger and problems in the home. And those executives, when they go into work, they'll just try to end what is going on even more. There's one group that's out there that really, really, really does a great job at implementing these types of campaigns. And it's that expansion that is made much easier by personal data, phone numbers, email addresses being publicly available. That actually exacerbates that problem. And so we want to make sure that we're there to kind of mitigate that as much as possible.
Yeah. Well, and this is, I think, to me, where you can connect, young people living in the home. I can't tell you how many times my daughters were high school, so I have twin 18-year-olds who just finished up their last year of high school. And, I would randomly run across a post that one of their friends had made on Instagram. And I would see, that they were identifying what school they went to or, what year they were graduating or putting, their whatever location being on all the time. I mean, it's so easy to get this information. And so I think, I think thinking about that is important. One of the things that you told me a while back that really stuck with me is that you mentioned that you own and operate the largest deception network out there and that every single one of your devices is a honeypot. You also mentioned that you and the team at BlackCloak try and break into your clients' homes every 7 days and that you get in about 20% of the time.
Yeah, I mean, so two different things. It's deception technology. Look, deception technology has been a mainstay of intelligence agencies, governments, all the rest. Just deception as a overall topic. And we've blended that here very uniquely at BlackCloak to go ahead and provide for those unknown unknowns, network-based attacks, friendly attacks, attacks coming on the inside of the home. We're able to go ahead and see those and mitigate them, react and respond. It's a different way of thinking about things, very different way of thinking about things. And then secondarily, in terms of, secondarily, in terms of thinking about how do we go ahead and help out on other pieces of technology in terms of like the home is continuing to be a larger attack surface in terms of smart homes, in terms of, different smart home devices that are there beyond TVs. We're talking about entire home automation systems. These create a really, really great professional cameras, professional grade home automation that's in the home. Same things that you have in the office, but in the home, as well as that footprint that's growing. And the only way to actually really know if someone is safe is to go ahead and do a penetration test on their home, but do it on a consistent basis. It's always a risk if somebody can, quote unquote, get in. And so that's really what we want to protect against. We want to protect against others being able to get into that home attack surface on a repeating basis and do it in really, really interesting ways. And I think the team's really done an amazing job at building that technology uniquely for us and for our security operations center team.
Yeah, I would agree. It's very impressive. So, Chris, as we wrap the show, I would venture a guess that this conversation might have piqued to the attention of some senior execs or some senior leaders who hadn't really thought about the need for this. What one piece of advice do you have to leave our audience with, things that for folks who might be thinking about a digital protection journey? Where do they start?
Well, I mean, it all starts with getting information. It all starts with getting information, reaching out, obviously to us. But I mean, there's simple steps there that people can take. They can have an executive threat assessment. So BlackCloak will actually do executive threat assessments on the top 20, 50, 100 executives at your company and show you what you already know, but show you that attack surface and what it looks like, all using our own data intelligence. So we can actually map that out for you and show you what it is. we actually can do it for the family too. And that's even a scarier proposition. But holistically, it's what the attack surface looks like. And remember, the cyber adversaries are doing the same thing.
Yeah.
But we say, start there. Start
Yeah.
there with hey, you have 100 ELT team members. Perfect. Bring on 10 of them onto BlackCloak. With the numbers and statistics that we have and the data behind us, we're doing full-blown protection. So we'll see malware 27% of the time. We'll get into the home, 1 out of 5 clients' homes. We'll get into those 20% of the time. Then 99% are deep web, dark web, and data broker remote. I mean, the numbers are there, and kind of the wow factor of wow. And it comes out, it gets worse each and every day. NPD breach adds more in here. But the amount of wow there in terms of just a executive threat assessment, or starting out with, hey, just the 10K execs, is a really, really great way to see what is out there. You already know, the CISOs already know what is there, and we can kind of confirm that bias and then go ahead and solve it. And that's really the key thing.
Yeah.
BlackCloak is not risk assessments and risk threats and risk intelligence. It's risk reduction, risk protection, because we're actually standing guard. Back to why I left the law firm. We don't want to just go ahead and handle risk and tell you what the risks are. We want to actually solve it and solve it for good in terms of decrease and mitigate that risk.
Yeah, I love that. Well, and I actually loved the method of saying, here's the deal. You don't need to listen to our marketing speak or anything else. Just let us show you. Yeah. I mean, to me, that's kind of a no-brainer and an eye-opener in this process, right?
We agree. We agree.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Dr. Chris Pierson, founder and CEO of BlackCloak, the concierge digital executive protection platform. Thanks so much for joining me today. I have a feeling we're going to be hearing a lot more about this topic and about BlackCloak in the months to come. And that's a wrap for this episode of the Security Square. I'm your host, Shelly Kramer, principal analyst here at Kramer&Co. Thanks so much for joining us today. Hit that subscribe button if you've not yet done it, and we'll see you here next time.